Apart from calculation of seepage, there are several other uses of flow net. We'll discuss some of them here. So first is calculation of uplift pressure. Uplift pressure is the pore water pressure and it acts in vertically upward direction. It is there due to residual pressure head. So let's see in case of a gravity dam. So because of this difference in head in upstream and downstream, the water seeps below this structure. The seepage of water will be taking place, and as the seepage takes place, so head is dissipated at these points. So there will be some residual head at all these points, and because of that residual head, some uplift pressure or some pore water pressure is applied in the upward direction, and that we are calling as uplift pressure. So in case of gravity dam, we know that stability of the structure is there because of the weight of the structure, and now because of this uplift pressure which is acting in the vertically upward direction, the stability of this structure reduces. So from the use of flow net, what we can do, we can find out the residual pressure head at different points, and if we know the residual pressure head, we can convert into the uplift pressure, which is just the pore water pressure. So we multiply it by the unit weight of water times the head, so it will give us the uplift pressure. So if that uplift pressure is in any way producing destability, so we can check that, and for further what we can do, we can put a we can provide a cutoff wall on the upstream side of the structure. So what this will do, it will increase the length of flow. So in this length of flow only, the head of water will be dissipated, and so the structure will be safe against the destabilizing effect of uplift pressure. Next is the problem of exit gradient and piping. So on the downstream side of the dam, what happens, if the seepage is taking place here, so on this point the flow lines will be just vertically upward, because this downstream line or this downstream pad is one of the equipotential line. So it is a equipotential line, and because of that, flow lines will be coming out like vertically in this direction, and at this point the flow channel which is there, it is of very small length, and we know that for if the flow channel is big or small, the potential drop is same. We call it as the equipotential drop. So it means that at this point, this equipotential drop is taking place in a small length of channel. So we know from the hydraulic gradient formula that it is the head loss divided by length of flow. So here the length of flow is small and head loss is same as it is at any other place. So what can happen here, this gradient can become equal to 1. So it, as we saw, it is called as the critical hydraulic gradient, and boiling can occur. So these particles what are there on the downstream side of the structure, they will become loose, and further flow of water will erode these particles. So erosion of these particles will take place, and if it is not checked, so what will happen, these particles are removed from here. So this process will go further in the back direction. So all this place, the particles will be removed, and a pipe kind of structure is formed. So this process is called piping. These voids will open continuously, and if it happens, so it is a the structure may fail catastrophically. So because we have to avoid this catastrophic failure, so we can find out these gradients again using the flow net, what are the exit gradient and all, because we know the head loss and the potential drop. So to when we are designing, so there is a large factor of safety is kept in case of piping, so at least a factor of safety of 6 is needed in case of piping. And how can we avoid it? So to avoid that, vertical cutoff wall is provided on the downstream side of structure. So this thing you can remember for objective point of view, that vertical cutoff wall is provided on the downstream in case of piping, and in case of uplift pressure, vertical cutoff wall is provided on the upstream side. Next is one similar problem to this piping. So on the downstream side of structure, the as we know that seepage, because of this seepage pressure, it produces this destabilizing effect that the whatever the soil is here, so the buoyant weight of this soil weight may become less than the seepage force. So this also we can find out using the flow net. So to avoid that, this problem is called as heaving. So to avoid that, a filter is provided. So a graded filter is provided on the downstream side. So in that case, new factor of safety will be given as buoyant weight plus weight of filter divided by seepage force. And apart from that, pore water pressure can also be calculated. As we saw in the uplift pressure also, that similar way we can find out the pore water pressure using the flow net. There are some methods of obtaining flow net. These are not important for the exam point of view. We'll just see in brief. First is analytical method. So in this method, the solution of Laplace equation is found out using mathematical equations. So for the boundary conditions, when the boundary conditions can be written in mathematical equations, so we can solve the Laplace equation and we can obtain the flow net. But it is only possible for very simple problems. So it is not of much use in the field. Next is the electrical flow analogy. So it uses the similarity between the Darcy's law and the Ohm's law. Darcy's law and Ohm's law. So as in the case of Darcy's law, the flow is proportional to the head drop, and in case of Ohm's law, current is proportional to the voltage drop. So this similarity is used to find out the flow net. And so what is done, electrical, so a medium is there such as water, so some electrolyte or salt would be added to this water, and electricity is provided, or electricity flows through this medium. And how this electricity flows, how the electricity flows, it is compared, and from that the flow net is obtained for the flow of water. So just this basic information is okay, like it is Darcy's law and Ohm's law, this similarity is used. And next is the capillary flow model, and similar to that is the sand model. So in these two models, what is done in capillary flow model, like two glass plates are there which are spaced very closely, and let's say the model of Earth's dam is placed between these two plates, and so head of water will be maintained on both sides, so water is allowed to flow. And so some, because we can see across this glass, so some dye is added. So dye is added in this water, so we can see the flow path, and from that flow net is obtained. And same is the case for sand model. So in this case, a model of sand is placed in this space, and some dye is introduced in that also, and the flow path is seen. After that, what is there? That is the graphical model. So graphical model, in that the boundary conditions are seen. Like say this is a sheet pile, and below this is a impervious stratum. So water is here and downstream it is here. So at this line on the upstream and this line downstream, the head is constant. Here also head is constant. So constant head means it is a equipotential line, and this downstream line also is an equipotential line. And now if the flow is taking place through seepage, so let's say some particle starts from here, water, and it will go from here to here, it means that it will follow this sheet pile. So this is a flow line. And similarly, this impervious bed, the water cannot cross this bed. So if it cannot cross this bed, so it is also a flow line. So using these four boundary conditions, the orthogonal set of lines, that is flow lines and or equipotential lines, these are drawn orthogonal to each other and flow net is obtained. So these were the methods to obtain the flow net. And so this is what we use for the confined flow condition. And in case of unconfined flow, we'll see the next time. So how we obtain the flow net for unconfined flow.